want you all to follow me.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
I could be happy, could be sad, could be good, could be bad. It all depends on you.
All depends on you.
That's nice. Could be humble, could be proud, could be lonesome in a crowd. It all depends on you.
All depends on you.
I could make money and spend it, go right and live and or end it. You're to blame, honey, for what I do.
What I do.
Could be beggar, could be king, could be almost any old thing.
It all depends on you.
Boom, boom, boom.
The thing that I've come to understand is one of the biggest challenges for seniors is the isolation. You lose a spouse and you want to hunker down. Or you're by yourself and now you've got some health issues that make traveling difficult. Maybe your eyesight's not as good as it used to be and it's not easy to drive. You won't do things at night. Then you won't do things much during the day over an hour's drive away, and then it's 30 minutes away. And so being able to go ahead and work the isolation issues, I think is really important. And the Shepherd Center, they've got that one down pat. The other thing that you can always learn more, and the opportunity the Shepherd Center presents, and I've had that opportunity to present, to go ahead and widen our world with speakers addressing various topics. Some of them of direct benefit, not just of interest, nutrition programs, wellness programs, those things that the Shepherd Center helps sponsor. Those are really important for seniors as they move forward.
I was able to serve on the board of the United Way and on the allocations committee, and that helped me learn what the community was like and what these nonprofit clubs were able to accomplish for the people here. And it was a wonderful, wonderful experience.
And the Shepherd Center provides a forum for getting the word out, but it also generates interest, and that interest sometimes translates into action. People will step up and say, I can help with that, or I can send you a check, or something along the line. And I'd like to take the opportunity now to also thank the Shepherd Center for the opportunity to be recognized for my community service work. I think probably like most recipients, Mary Lou and I are a little gun shy about this, but it gives me the opportunity to go ahead and shine a light on the work that's being done and to keep that work alive in everybody's eyes. So I'm thankful for the opportunity to the Shepherd Center, not only for this acknowledgement, but for all the work that the Shepherd Center does and all of the recipients that have come before us. And we've been privileged to know a number of them.
You better be ready to roll when I pull up in front of your door. 'Cause I ain't waiting around. Honey, I'm leaving this town. I'm singing a road song and you can sing along. Oh, you better make up your mind, because today's the day I'm leaving. I'm through with empty dreaming. We're shaking the dust off our shoes, we're through with the blues, we're leaving this town behind.
My first memory is living in an old farmhouse in the gold rush country of Northern California. And my dad, for a couple of years, tried farming. It was pear growing country. My grandparents had their orchards, but we didn't stay up in gold rush country very long. A couple of bad frost years, and my dad decided to give up farming and went down into the Sacramento Valley. And Sacramento at that time, in the early 50s, early to mid 50s, was still a big boom town. And so he went down there, worked, had a window business for a short period of time, but then was a carpenter for the rest of his life. Semi-rural, everybody was a half-acre to an acre lot. Orchards all around us from when farming had been big. It was in the process of being urbanized. Schools were being built as fast as they could be built. So we lived in a blue-collar neighborhood, young families, kids everywhere. We all ran as a pack. We all went to the same schools, new schools, and all the way through high school for me.
I was born in 1950 in California in Salinas Valley. My sister was 6.5 years old when I was born and grew up on a ranch that my dad and grandfather ran, and we lived there until about I was 10 years old. Then we moved into a little town called King City, and I went to elementary school there, I went to junior high there, I went to high school there. I went to Sacramento State College at that point, and my sister and her husband were living in Sacramento, and I lived with them for the first year I was there.
My dad had always been strong on me being an engineer when I grew up. And he knew of my interest in becoming a Marine, particularly a Marine pilot, because of an uncle's influence. But he really said, you need to be an engineer. And so I took a lot of advanced classes in high school and had a miserable grade point average to show for it. But managed to score just well enough on the test to be able to get into Sacramento State College. So my second day of college, I was still 17, not quite 18. I go into an afternoon class, a speech class, and look over in the corner, and I see this pretty young gal, and I was pretty full of myself. I'm still pretty full of myself. So there was an empty seat next to her. Walked over and asked if I could sit down, and
he happened to follow me down the path and asked me for my phone number. And so we began dating and discovered that he and his folks lived about 5 minutes from my sister and brother-in-law where I was living. So we spent the next few years dating, and after attending a formal program, he asked me to marry him.
Married in Mary Lou's hometown of King City, California, little Episcopal church there. Graduated from college, I was commissioned a second lieutenant in the Marine Corps in June of 1973. And at the time, we were still pretty actively involved in Vietnam, and so there was a need for pilots, and I was on an aviation contract. So instead of going the normal path that Marine second lieutenants did then and do now, going back to the basic school in Quantico, Virginia, I had orders straight to Pensacola. Drove cross country, checked into flight school, and had a good, quick year there. Went into the helicopter track, got my wings, and then a year to the day, coming across Interstate 40, through Flagstaff and down through Arizona into California, we crossed the California border again. Second Lieutenant Lumsden, newly designated naval aviator, heading to the 3rd Marine Aircraft Wing at El Toro, California, for further assignment to an operating squadron. I was assigned to the CH-53 community. H-53s are the biggest helicopters that the Navy and Marines and Air Force fly. And so went in through a training squadron. While I was there, our first child was born, Rachel Kathleen Lumsden. We had a small 3-bedroom townhome in a place called Mission Viejo, California. I lived there for a couple of years. Our second child, Sean, was born. And just after he was born, I got my first set of orders overseas. We went overseas to Okinawa. It was without family support packages. It was an unaccompanied tour, so Mary Lou and the kids came over at our own expense.
And David had gone over to Okinawa ahead of us. So I was there with all the pack up and the packing and the travel. And we had a 2-year-old and a 4-month-old. When we got off the airplane, I was accompanied by Marines following me, behind me. One was carrying a diaper bag, one was carrying blankets, one was carrying, toys. And when we got in there, the usual thing they would do is take you through customs. Well, they saw me coming with a broken suitcase and all these Marines following us, and they said, just go right on ahead, and looked for David, and off we went.
We joined a community of like-minded, like-situated young officers from the air station just off base in Okinawa. Had actually a pretty decent 1-bedroom apartment there as well. A car that worked most of the time when I was there and seemed to fail every time I was off island.
It was a challenge. And for months we did not have a baby carrier that went in the car on the base or on the island anywhere.
Water rationing day on, day off, good part of the year. There would be a stampede at the commissary when diapers came in because they really weren't set up for the number of dependents they had on the island.
And 3 years after we got there, David was sent to the ship, and I was there by myself.
I got the opportunity to travel all over the Orient, Korea, the Philippines, Singapore, on ship, while Mary Lou was enjoying the exotic life in Okinawa. We finished that assignment up, had orders to the 2nd Marine Aircraft Wing down at Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, at the air station there. Flying another 53 squadron, did that for a couple of years. 2 years there, I was selected for our captain school. And the captain school is a 1-year school at Quantico. All of the officer schools are at Quantico. And it was a good career signal that the Corps thought I might have a future with them. So getting that school, while I was there, applied for and was accepted to the Presidential Helicopter Squadron. So now Captain Lumsden just finished as Amphibious Warfare School graduate, is assigned to the Presidential Squadron. And that is the best tour of my career. When you can go deploy to all the places that we deployed with those helicopters all over the world, flying in helicopters that are superbly maintained, when every switch works every time, and that's not the normal fleet experience, when it always works, it's just an extraordinary tour. And we're not assigned by president. The quarter of the squadron rotates out every year, so I could have done 2 years with President Carter and 2 years with Reagan. It's just my 4 years were all with President Reagan. an extraordinary gentleman, and we adored him in the squadron. And the Vice President Bush Sr., lives at the Naval Observatory in Northwest DC, and so we provided support to the Vice President as well. I did an awful lot of trips in and out of the Naval Observatory, picking up Vice President Bush. But travel all over the world, great tour, great tour.
We got to travel to some of the places. We got to travel up to see the White House, and he has, traveled so much with the Marine Corps. And I spent a little bit of time at home with the kids carrying on. One time especially, he traveled with HMX over to the 40-year celebration at Normandy, and he was helping with the Secret Service and bringing people in. I spent time at home with the children and taking care of them, mowing the lawns there. Came in from mowing the lawn, sat on the floor, turned on the TV to watch the news, and there I saw David speaking into his wrists and bringing in helicopters while I was sitting cross-legged in my blue jeans on the floor.
Finished my 4 years there, and then we were in receipt of orders to go back to Okinawa. And that time I was in a non-flying tour, my first staff job. And so learned a lot about staff work in that.
When the children were in 3rd and 5th grade, and they were able to go to school there at their school system. And friends of mine all lived in the same apartment complex, and one of my friends especially and I attended all kinds of tours north and south of Okinawa, and really learned more about the history of the island there.
4 times to Okinawa. I got to know it pretty well. Selected for lieutenant colonel. Really had planned on getting out as a lieutenant colonel, but they said, what do you want to do for your last 3 years? And I said, I like that staff college experience so much. How about if I go back and be an instructor? So after 3 years as faculty, teaching faculty, went to the War College. While I was there, was selected for colonel, but there's usually a payback tour after a War College assignment. So I went to the Joint Staff in the Pentagon for 2 years, where I wrote education policy for the military. Was Dean of Academics at the staff college that I'd been an instructor at before. And then after a year of that, a vacancy opened up and was reassigned to be director of our War College, our top level college. So finished up my career with the Marine Corps at 27 years and change.
We're shaking the dust off our shoes, we're through with the blues, we're leaving this town behind.
Towards the end of my career, we started having a discussion about what happens after the Marine Corps. And then I found out how relatively inexpensive land is in West Virginia compared to Northern Virginia or California or whatever. So we would, over the course of 2 to 3 years, take a long weekend every 3 or 4 months, go explore an area. And slowly but surely we wound our way south. 219 seemed to be the anchor highway that we always came back to. And found our property here in the Crawley area. After I retired from active duty, I was on a number of contracts as a consultant, first for the Air Force, but then for the Navy and Marine Corps on experimental ships, science and technology. Finished that up in January of 2016 and had planned on improving my golf game, working off a backlog of maintenance here at Windy Hill Farm and slowing down. But then new little boy was born on June 17th, and then we had floods in June. And I started an accidental journey into the work that I do now. I needed to be able to go ahead and check on my Rotary partners, my Rotary family. I had made friends with mayors throughout this part of Greenbrier County to check and see how they were doing and see what I could do to help. As it turns out, when you went to any of these small towns, the mayors weren't in their office. They were out watching things happen, debris being removed, people being fed. And unfortunately for them, at the same time they're watching that happen and taking care of their constituents, there are some big meetings taking place in White Sulphur Springs with FEMA, with senators, a number of funding agencies. So I offered to go ahead and take notes and come back and report what was going on with those things. No good deed goes unpunished. Because of the visibility that I gained in those meetings, I was asked to go ahead and chair the Greater Greenbrier Long-Term Recovery Committee. And so in the 2016 flood, there were 12 counties declared federal disaster areas, 8 long-term recovery committees established. The committee that I helped stand up encompassed Pocahontas, Greenbrier, and Monroe counties. Most of the work was in Greenbrier County. Most of the damage was in Greenbrier County. Chaired that for 2 years, a little over 2 years, and we got enormous things done. We came to the conclusion that we needed to work with the small business community. So we started that, brought in all kinds of agencies to help, and then along the way came to the realization that the back end of disaster recovery is community development. So while we're having these discussions, Matt Ford, who had been my vice, and I stand up the Meadow River Valley Association. And it is a community development group benefiting all of the Meadow River Valley. And so we've got a number of initiatives underway, recreational components, repurposing the old Rupert Elementary School, which became available when a new school was built, standing up the Meadow River Valley Early Childhood Learning Center, the Marvel Center. I'm on that board, vice president of the Meadow River Valley Association. I'm on the Greenbrier County Health Alliance board. And those board memberships benefit me primarily because it helps me connect the dots between the organizations, and so that we can take advantage of the work that each of them does. We've had really good support from the entire county as we move forward with the things we're trying to get done in the Meadow River Valley. I think everybody, just out of the goodness of their hearts and perhaps their faith, but they also recognize that a healthy Meadow River Valley benefits the whole county.
Before everyone was living here, I had many more opportunities at home to volunteer and do things. But I have to tell you, having a family of 6 here, along with a 11-year-old chocolate lab, and a cat, and 2 turtles that have been traveling with us for 35 years, keeps me a little busy here now. So it's lovely at this point for us to be settled here and not being alone, but having him at home with us.
People these days they'll thank you for your service if they know that you either are serving or have served. And I'm always appreciative of that, but it's always difficult for me to accept that kind of thank you or that kind of compliment. And it's just saying, well, thank you, or thank you for your kindness, just didn't seem enough. So I always thank them for paying for it because I had a ball. I love my time in the service.
If we look to the answer as to why for so many years we achieved so much, prospered as no other people on earth, it was because here in this land we unleashed the energy and individual genius of man to a greater extent than has ever been done before. Freedom and the dignity of the individual have been more available and assured here than in any other place on earth. As for the enemies of freedom, those who are potential adversaries, they will be reminded that peace is the highest aspiration of the American people. We will negotiate for it, sacrifice for it. We will not surrender for it now or ever. We are Americans.